What's up, Vetters? Patrick here with Vetted, part 3 of a 3-part series. So the final part has finally been released with UFO whistleblower Matthew Brown, who was featured on the Weaponized podcast with George Knapp and Jeremy Corbell. Matthew Brown is the author behind the Immaculate Constellation document that was submitted to Congress back in November. I have 4 clips to show you, and each one is going to get more shocking as we go through. This might be the most shocking part of the 3-part series. So there's some crazy claims made and some new information that, if true, changes a lot, I have to be honest. So let's dive into this and see what this is all about. Now, I'm going to put links in the description to highlight videos that I made of part 1 and part 2 if you want to check those out to catch up. But let's jump into part 3 here. Now, before we do, please, Vetters, hit that like button. That really helps out the videos. And, of course, if you're not already subscribed, hit that subscribe button. What are you waiting for? Put out new videos every day about the UFO phenomena. I'm trying to get to 100,000 subscribers before the end of the year. We can do it. Clip number 1, take a look.
It's been a very painful, costly process to find allies, but I have them. There's more of us. This doesn't stop.
Right. You got to know some of these other whistleblowers who are still not public yet.
Correct.
But who are at least close to coming forward.
Yes.
Is there strength in numbers then in that regard?
Yes, and if all of us die or imprisoned, the seeds have been planted, more will come.
Well, those seeds have been planted about deaths in the whistleblower community. Those stories circulate, I would imagine, pretty quickly among you and people you know.
Yeah, but I'm still here.
You think anybody has been killed because they knew too much on this topic?
Yes, I believe and I think, and I could probably help someone else prove it. But lethal action has been taken against people that tried to get the truth out. Or maybe we're just considered wild cards, not able to be efficiently controlled, no longer useful. I think once you taste the darkness, you like using it.
Now, that is quite terrifying and alarming and scary, right, to hear that from Matthew Brown. Now, stay with me because there are 3 more clips I'm going to show you, and they're going to increasingly get more shocking here, right? Now, again, Matthew Brown, coming out, this was probably recorded months ago, probably last year, if I'm being honest, right? With the idea that he would, quote, blow the whistle, right, on Immaculate Constellation and much more, to be honest with you, kind of his journey of not only uncovering Immaculate Constellation, but then what he did with that information afterwards, right, and what he tried to do. And that's very interesting, right? And has lethal force been used, right? He's pretty much sure, and he even thinks he could help prove it in some cases. Yeah, that's scary for sure. So let's move on to clip number 2. Let me know what you think in the comments so far.
Why so many shapes? Why do you think so many shapes? I used to think flying saucers were discs. I used to think UFOs were flying saucers. That's what I used to think. Now, after knowing this guy for so long, reading all the reports, getting whistleblowers, talking with him, why so many shapes?
I think part of it's sometimes these might be, made to purpose. So, if they're only making it for a specific use case scenario, they'll design it to excel in that mission.
I guess we know that. We do that.
Absolutely.
We have bombers that look a certain way, and then we have reconnaissance vehicles that look another way. I guess.
Star Wars, they have giant cruisers, and they have the X-fighters, for different jobs. Would you be surprised to hear about cases where these things, large objects, come out of the ocean or go back into the ocean? Does that sound familiar?
I would not be surprised. I have not seen very large objects go in and out of the water, but I've definitely seen small to medium-sized UAPs either going into the water and disappearing, or going in and out, or coming out of the water.
Fact.
And on video and described.
There's a video and described any kind of change of inertia.
Yes, sir.
Multiple videos.
Yeah.
Any kind of, we have also been exposed to some Let me ask you this: any change of any inertial effect, any change of speed or motion?
That's like the water wasn't there.
It's like the gold for anybody who wants to see. I wonder if it's ever enough. Like, is video ever enough? Like, what is enough for people to wrap their heads that there's a real issue here? I don't know. I don't think one video is ever going to change. I want to talk to you.
I mean, honestly, logically that makes sense. Tools have different purposes, therefore they would have different shapes, right? And could these ships just be tools? I mean, they essentially are just big tools in the sky, even our own, right? They always have a purpose, and totally makes sense. And just different companies make different shapes, right? There's different just engineering, inventions, creativity, artistic expression. Do aliens have this thing? Probably, right? They probably have the same thing. Does capitalism exist on their planet, right? Very interesting, right? So, yeah, it does make sense that there would be different shapes, sizes, colors, capabilities, all of that, right? That each one would be unique. Now, let's move on to clip number 3.
Have you gamed it out in your head what happens next? What will likely be, assuming we go forward with this interview and make it public, and that right now we don't know that that's the case, but when it comes out, if it comes out, what happens to you then? What are the risks?
Well, gaming it out, there's more than me. More will come. I could say more if I wanted to. Hopefully this rises to a level of public attention that demands it be addressed in a serious way. I can't cause that alone. Other people will, but more need to come. And I think at this point, I like to say directly to the members of our military and our intelligence community, the time is now where you must choose whether you honor your oath or your orders. And if you have courage, you already know the answer. But for the rest of you, lead, follower, get out of the way. Get out of the way.
We know people are coming forward, and we know we've recorded, George and I, with other people who will be coming forward. So you're not alone.
Mm-hmm.
But you say you could say more. Just explain that.
When I wrote this document, I've kind of given my state of mind and the measures I took to protect it. I'm also, familiar with ways that information can be extracted, that passwords and encryption don't matter. So I didn't write everything down.
So there are other bullets left to fire if you needed to.
Yeah. Talk about things getting lost in the shuffle. I highly doubt many members of the public read 11 pages, much less the first.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end, there's an interesting area. People might notice that it's out of order, too. Things are sequentially out of order. There's missing sections.
Mm-hmm.
And that one of that last sections says sensitive sources from mouth to ear.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about keeping that in or what to, how far to go with.
What does that mean?
Well, exactly what it says. Those words were only spoken from my mouth to another's ear.
I mean, there's a lot to unpack there. One, he is so nervous. I mean, you literally see his lips trembling, his face, right? All of that is just trembling, right? He is clearly scared. That is, he's not acting. Okay, something is worrying him, whatever it may be, right? Clearly he's emotionally charged there. There's just no way to fake that unless you're just one of the best actors of all time, and I just doubt that Matthew Brown is. So clearly he's emotionally charged about this, right? You can see it, plain as day. And they sort of talk about more whistleblowers coming out, more people talking, right? He knows more information. There's more whistleblowers, again, coming out. This is a lot to take in, right, to be honest with you, because like, what are we supposed to do with this? That I guess that's my biggest question. Like, what's going to happen afterwards, right? What? Okay, more whistleblowers come out, but what are they whistleblowing about? Have they seen the same documents as him? Where are the people that are in the program who touch the craft and work on them? And that, where are they? Where are those guys? Let's get those guys out, right? Because it's always just people coming across documents or seeing things, but that's not enough, I think, right? And seeing videos, but it's just not enough, right? To jump to answering one of society's biggest questions, humanity's biggest questions, right? Are we alone? So I think you do need a little bit more than just a video document, right? Like we're going to need to see some stuff, but it sounds like it's not a difficult process. I mean, I'm sorry. It sounds like it's not an easy process. It's a difficult process, right? For that to happen. And that makes sense as well, right? So both sides of the coin there, right? We require a lot of evidence to prove this, but at the same time, I can, totally understand that getting that a lot of evidence is not easy. All right, let's move to this final clip here that I don't really know what to say about it.
Somebody was flying these things that crashed. Somebody built these things that are being reverse engineered. Who's that somebody? And why don't they come forward? I mean, you may not have seen that in a document or a file or something somewhere, but you've thought about it. You're a smart guy. What are your thoughts on the big picture questions? Who are they? Why are they here? Why don't they show us what's going on?
I think I have a good degree of confidence that the reason they're here is us. I think life, especially sentient life, is a precious thing. And I think to some, it might be a resource. I think humanity to some level is a resource for them.
Like a commodity?
Possibly a commodity, possibly a form of entertainment, possibly medical related.
Think they live here?
Yes.
For all intents and purposes?
Yes.
Always?
I don't know about always, but it certainly appears that they have been here for most of recorded history. At least some element of this has been here for most of human recorded history.
You think we would see them if they didn't let us see them? Even with our more advanced sensors, that they pop up, but they can also disappear. And do they allow us to get these glimpses? Is that a game of some sort, I wonder? Or an education process?
It's a bizarre one that I could not understand if it is a game. I think they're both just as powerful as we think, but also less. And I think there is not a single they here. Certainly multiple factions of the same species, if not multiple species. And all the complexity that brings, which might be our best hope.
Do they have an agenda? There's different types. What are your philosophies on this? Like, who are the others? Why are they here? And you've touched upon it. I know we're kind of going back a little bit, but that is the big question. And I just wanted to separate so people understand your exposure and your personal conclusions.
So I have been exposed to no direct information on the anatomy, biology, intentions, culture, politics.
Never came across those files?
Never came across those. I think those are all some of the deepest secrets.
Right. They would be if this is correct information.
What I have learned is that we live in a dream, a carefully constructed reality. We make use of a science that is tightly controlled and suppressed and distorted. I think we are left behind.
Humans.
I think normies, the normal humans, the people have been left behind. Us. People need to understand that we might have freedom of speech, but that has been subverted. We do not have freedom of inquiry. We are blocked from learning what we need to know. Just in the public world, we are blocked from advancing in science. We are taught false science intentionally to prevent us from learning more. We live in the Matrix. It's just much more boring than the movie.
Now, I had to break this last clip into two parts because this next part coming up is kind of the most shocking to me, in my opinion now. But what he just said is also interesting to me. I guess I just wonder, how does he know some of these things to be true? Is he just speculating that this is what he thinks based on what he's seen, or is he trying to affirm it as a fact that we live in the Matrix? And by the Matrix, does he mean a simulation, or does it just mean we live like we're controlled in that way? Does that make sense? Like, what exactly does he mean by this, right? I think there's a lot of parts, actually, of part 3 where there just needs to be more explanations about what exactly he means. And again, I would just ask, how is he so certain about some of the biggest questions facing humanity, right? I mean, we're taught, physics to keep us hidden and down. And that, what does he mean by that? And how is he so certain of that? Because of this? Is he just extrapolating things and trying to understand things? Does that make sense? Like, he just seems a little certain, too certain, in my opinion, about some of these things that, in my opinion, should stay speculative, honestly, forever until we are absolutely certain and disclosure is out and we can prove some of these things, right? And even then, we may not know that entirely. Right, what these species' intentions are, what they're using us for, how many are here, all those things. I mean, even if we have a little bit of knowledge, it's like the Dunning-Kruger effect, right, where we get a little bit of knowledge and then we just think we know everything. Well, it's happening on a mass scale, I think. So I guess I do just wonder with some of these whistleblowers, they'll come out about, they have information A, and then when they come out, they all of a sudden have knowledge of A through Z. Wait a second. That doesn't make any sense, right? You know about this one thing, but now you know all the answers to everything, right? So I don't know, and I'm not saying Matthew Brown is saying he has all the answers to everything, but it seems a little unusual that he knows some of these things just based on what he's seen, right? So, and maybe him knowing more than he's letting on, which he admits to in this interview. Maybe that's where it's coming from. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. So let's move on to this last part and wait for the final statement that has me the most shocked. You'll see what I mean.
I think about whistleblowers like yourself. You're about to find out, assuming we release this, you're about to find out what the price is for coming forward. And there are other people in the same kind of position who are wondering what they should do, who are basically being held in limbo. They've worked in classified programs their whole life. That's what they do. That's what pays their bills. And they're held in limbo, and that's held over their heads so they don't come forward. And they're debating taking the same steps as you. There is no hope or help for anything like folks like that, is there? I mean, we've heard promises. We'll help whistleblowers come forward. We'll give them support. There are private equity funds and organizations that say they're going to help, but we haven't seen shit so far, have we? And have you?
No, I've reached out directly to institutions that claim that they are here to help UAP whistleblowers specifically, both in the process of coming forward and any sort of stability afterwards. It's been radio silence. At best, at worst, one of those institutions has stolen my information. There is no organized help for whistleblowers. It is all controlled. It is all at either the special interest of industry that wants to get in on this, or by the existing powers that be.
Intelligence agencies who have infiltrated or created these things.
Correct.
I have directly experienced that, sadly, over this last year, which is the vacuuming up of intelligence on people such as yourself who are trying to do the right thing as whistleblowers, as well as anything that reporters could possibly obtain and release. And it is a treacherous moment in our history of this. You did a call to action to people. You told them this, it's time, move forward. I know that you had some encouragement with David Grush. I hope people are encouraged, also by you. Look, man, if you were to die tomorrow because of whatever reason, what do you want people to know right now? Like, what do you want people to know if you're just like fucking gone?
You are not free. And this reality has far more to it than you have been allowed to believe. And God is real.
What? God is real? What God? What do we mean by that? What does he mean by God is real? Again, what God? That doesn't mean anything really. The Christian God. There's, I think, thousands of religions on this planet. So he's going to have to be a little more specific about what God he means. But what a conclusion to jump to. Does he just mean a creator? I don't know. I got to be honest. That statement rubbed me the wrong way. Just being honest. Okay. I've really appreciated Matthew Brown and his testimony, and I found him to be quite credible. And I believe he believes what he's saying. So clearly he has shown no other proof, right, for the statements. And I think he would understand that people would be skeptical, right? And maybe not skeptical, but just kind of, I don't know, they don't know what to do with the information, right? I can believe what he's saying, but that doesn't mean I believe in what he's saying, if that makes sense, right? It's kind of two different things. And I just being honest, right? That's just a raw reaction to me hearing that statement, because I just don't know what that means. Like, I just don't like the other parts. Like, just, I guess I would prefer just tell us what you saw, and then these other things, it activates people, right? Because that's what everyone's taking away from this final part. It's just this last statement here. We're not free, all these things, how much of that is true? And to some extent, philosophically, that could be true, right? In many different ways. And it just depends what country you're in. I mean, I don't know. There's just a lot going on in my head, honestly, about all this, to be honest. And I'm going to have to let this settle for a few days and kind of take some of this stuff in and try to process it. But yeah, I don't know. God is real. Just what does that even mean? I just don't even know what that means. I'm not sure really what to do with that. But look, there are other whistleblowers that are going to come out, right? Allegedly. And Matthew Brown himself has more information that he has not released out, right? So we'll just have to wait and see, as always, right? But again, I can totally understand why this is a slow process. If it's as serious as they're claiming, it makes sense that it would be a slow process, which can be quite frustrating. And I totally get it. And I share your frustrations. If you have some about this and the process of this information coming out, I totally get it, right? I totally understand. So anyway, that's enough rambling for me today. I'll put links down below. Go check out the other two highlight videos of part 1 and part 2 if you want to catch up. And of course, a full link. And of course, a link in the description to the full episode of part 3 on Weaponized with George Knapp and Jeremy Corbell. And of course, you know what? I want to give a shout out to Jeremy Corbell and George Knapp for reporting on this and putting it out there for us to decide what to do with. At the end of the day, I always appreciate that, and doing some of the work they do behind the scenes, whether you agree with them or not, is not easy. And, I just try to put myself in people's shoes, try to understand their perspective, right? And it makes me more understanding, right? So, and not quick to judge, to be honest. So what they're doing can't be easy, whether you agree with it or not. At least if information comes out, we can then do with the data what we want. So why stop people from trying to get information out? I don't get it, right? So anyway, shout out to all of them for, hard work and dedication. Shout out to Matthew Brown for coming forward and putting his face out there, his name, and talking about this. And I hope he can understand how we all need to see more, probably, at the end of the day, to push forward. But is this a positive step forward? Yes, in my opinion, it is. So anyway, all right, y'all, we'll see you in the next video. Leave your comments down below. Remember, every day's a gift, y'all. Peace.